Hi, so I want to talk to you about how to watch educational videos, especially my videos, and in general, how to be more productive on YouTube if you're here for education. Okay, so when you're watching the video, you have to watch it proactively and with purpose. Okay, so the video is usually a very long video, okay, and you gotta sort of decide ahead of time how much time you have to spend and what it is that you want to learn. Sometimes you don't know exactly what it is you want to learn. You might have to skip around the video to see what the video might have to offer. But what you can't do is you can't just be like everyone else and just kind of if the video really like attracts you superficially, then you watch and you're kind of just being led with like engagement cues, hooks, and all this kind of stuff. You really you gotta be in charge. Okay, you can't be just led by other things. Okay, and so I mean that as a general tip on YouTube. So try not to watch shorts, but if you are going to watch shorts, you need to set yourself a time limit. At first, you might just have a time limit just to realize you're going over the time limit every time. But eventually, once you're aware of that, you can take some steps to avoid that. Because the worst thing on YouTube is you're going on there to learn something about maths or something else, and then you end up just watching a whole bunch of useless trash, and then all your time is gone. Okay, so that's something to be aware of, that leak. Okay. And some of that leak will go away when you do what I say about focusing on the video. Okay, so there's in some of our videos, which are just lessons, there's going to be long pauses. Okay, why didn't I just edit that out of the video? I could have. Also, it's obviously harder to it takes more time, but the thing is, you could just skip those long pauses. But the long pauses give you an indication of how long it takes for members of the class to solve the problem, so you can actually get some idea of where you are at relative to the class. Okay, so at the moment, the videos aren't very well labeled for the difficulty, but if you're persistent, you can actually discover what level you are relative to the videos. You actually these are very difficult classes, and but you should be able to find one that's right for you, and then you can work your way up. Okay, and so something about the long videos. So one of the reasons we have really long classes and long videos is because part of sort of being smarter and being more intellectual, I think, is increasing our attention span and being having the mental fortitude to concentrate for longer. Okay, so it's not just it's not just someone just spamming facts at you and you memorize them until you get tired and then you go to sleep and you do it again the next day. That's kind of dumb, right? So the length gives you time to actually consider things properly, but at the same time you'll realize you're getting tired towards the end of the videos if you actually try to watch them or engage with the class, and that's got to do with sort of your mental fitness. Okay, and that's something we want to improve as well when it comes to education. So, um, so maybe as a general tip for YouTube, so if you know how much time you can actually spend on it, um, that's great. And if the video is even longer than that, you might have to plan for it. Okay, but one advantage of having a video is you can skip around and watch it at like 1.5x and do all these other things. Okay, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to be like, oh, I'm bored in the first 10 minutes. This person's not teaching me anything, so I'm gonna just move on to some stupid video. So, so the difference is you're guaranteed not to learn anything in the stupid video, okay? But in the one that you sort of have a choice, you actually have a chance to learn something, but you just don't realize it, okay? And and then that's another thing with education, okay? So education is about making you better than what you currently are, and your current self is inadequate and unqualified. And so, in some sense, it's kind of ironic because that unqualified self is making the assessment for whether or not some content is interesting or not. But you're actually not able to even judge it because all you're really judging for is entertainment, engagement, this kind of superficial things. And but what you're really looking for is a deeper understanding and a way to improve yourself at maths and other things. I think maths is probably the best thing to pursue if you want to make yourself smarter overall. And yeah, so um, there's a lot of things as well. I mean, just generally on YouTube, if you the kind of videos you want to watch, like I think education is a big part of about the truth. Okay, so there's a lot of videos or a lot of channels that disable the comments. Okay, so So if you're disabling the comments, it kind of means that somehow for some reason you don't want to have like truthful discussions about your videos, which is a very big red flag for me. Okay, so a lot of channels like Nine News, I'll refuse to watch because they just disable the comments, and instead of telling you like the facts of the story, they give you sort of their conclusions, which is always a bad sign. Okay, the whole idea of YouTube for kids and the comments are disabled to protect the kids. I think this is also very short-term minded, fixed mindset kind of approach, and it's not very educational for kids because, I mean, it is true to some extent. A lot of kids, they just trust everything, so whatever you put in front of them, they'll believe anyway. But if parents can see the comments and stuff, there are certain videos they're just absolute trash. They're not educational at all. They kind of just attract the kids' attention. Just like kind of like sugar and stuff like this. Um, yeah, and then I guess maybe the worst kind of channel that you don't really um probably can't even necessarily tell is the ones that they allow the comments, but they kind of delete all the ones that they don't like. So it's kind of you only get the comments from the people who support a certain idea, and you don't see the comments of people who are against the idea. Okay, so ideally, I mean, the comments, the whole point of having sort of internet comments, the part of it is you get to see truthful sort of replies, and these days not maybe not even as much. Okay, um, so people post anonymously, but if they have their identity attached to it, they might be more reluctant to say what they're thinking, or they just might say something generic. Um, but then also there's also the downside, of course, with everything. So it's like the videos that get lots of views, lots of likes, the comments that get lots of upvotes. Um, sort of the majority opinion is not always right. Okay, so just don't think someone's got a good point just because it sounds good and everyone's agreeing with them. Okay, so a lot of the time, um, what they're saying doesn't actually make any sense. And so the whole point of education is to be able to tell for yourself if something makes sense or not, instead of having to trust a whole bunch of people. Okay, and so yeah, so YouTube, there's a bit of like trust involved. There's a lot of time scamming involved, and just overall, I think it can be very chaotic because if you don't really understand yourself and YouTube and you're on the platform, you could really get kind of sucked along this rabbit hole before you realize, oh look, this is some sort of like an addiction. I need to really stay focused to my goals. Um, See, I mean, it's tempting to maybe even say completely give up on YouTube when it comes to education, but the thing is, the video format is still very, very valuable. You can't give up the video format. Okay, but another difference between sort of YouTube videos and actual sort of classroom learning, um, so this is kind of like the inverted classroom thing, is that when you go to the classroom, you get to question the person that's talking. Okay, so you can't just accept what they're saying is true and just accept their authority. So that's the whole point of being there with them. So this is maybe another good thing about having comments. So you can leave comments or ask questions in class to clarify, verify, and maybe even authenticate things that are being said. Okay, it's not just trusting and memorizing. That's really stupid. Okay, so once you get that, and start interacting with the class, that's when you kind of reach the next level. So this is all part of this being proactive. So the first part of being proactive is kind of selecting what you're watching, and not just and having a maybe more open mind about what wasting time consists of. But another thing is also try to interact with you. Obviously, comments in a video is not going to always be replied to, but if you're in face to face with someone, they have to reply to you. Um, but it doesn't mean that there could be other people commenting to reply to you as well. So it's kind of um, there's a lot of ways that can be good, and yeah, and obviously people worried about looking stupid, but the fact is with questions is like every question is like basically a stupid question. It probably makes you look stupid. It reveals some in something, a gap in your knowledge, but in the short term. But in the long term, it's a device. It's for making you smart, right? It's to fill that gap, to clear up a misunderstanding, so that in the future you actually know what's going on and what's good. Okay, so if I've touched on any topics you find interesting, can you please subscribe and maybe leave a comment and say what else you want me to talk about? Because like I can probably go on endlessly about a lot of these topics, but um, so at first there's going to be some choices on which ones to do. So just make sure you leave a comment and subscribe.